share. When you're talking about growth, these are some of the questions which pop to your mind. I mean, is it worth entering a new market? If you enter, what are the kind of white spaces? What are the kind of value creation opportunities in those markets? I mean, how do you push in your existing products and services? How do you do a refresh? How do you improve your existing product or services? Is there scope for introducing new products? How do you plug the gaps in your portfolio? Is there any adjacent markets or products that can be launched? Should you enter new geographies? Is there any new customer segments that can be targeted? Can you revise the pricing, what you call pricing options for the customers? Can you think of innovative business model plans? And from a future perspective, how do you block out certain categories or interest areas so that competition doesn't enter them? How do you avoid being disrupted? And from a process perspective, how do you reduce the cost? How do you improve your current processes? And how do you improve customer experience? Typical questions that we're all faced with when we are talking about growth. Now, I'm going to show you a simple 2x2 matrix, which can be used as a thinking frame when you're thinking about growth initiatives. Now, look at this. I mean, you have your existing business systems, channels, and product, and you can use it to target your existing customers. Now, this could be done through an improved product or service. You can be talking about initiatives like improving the messaging, improving marketing. But that is all your core or your sustaining business. You can use your existing business systems to target new customers, and that's an adjacent opportunity. Also, what you can do is slightly tweak your existing business model, add new channels, add new products, and target again your existing customers, which is another form of an adjacent opportunity. Or what you can do is you can use your tweaked business model or your additional channels can be used to target new customers. Now, a very good example of this is the kind of opportunities in the current environment a lot of FMCG companies are pursuing, like manufacturing of hand sanitizers, manufacturing of ventilators. These were lines of businesses which the company was never into, but the market is throwing up an opportunity and you're using your existing business systems and manufacturing facilities to tap into that opportunity. Now, we are not going into details about this 2x2 matrix, but I've written a white paper, which I'll be sharing in the group. You can read through it. But one of the interesting points is when we speak to companies about growth, one of the major pushbacks is you need to have massive advertising budgets to grow your revenue to scale. So this is the typical spiel that we hear from advertising and marketing agencies, that you need to put money in the market to grow your market share. And it's a very linear relationship. The more money you put in the market, the more you grow your market share. But this is a slightly warped theory. Why I'm saying that is because if you look at companies like a Zoom, a Google, or even a lot of challenger companies in the foreign markets like a Chobani, they didn't spend massive amounts of money in the market to gain market share. They had very differentiated and unique products. And that is exactly, this hypothesis was proven when we started studying the share of voice to share of market correlation, or in a sense, how much money you put in the market and what's the kind of market share that you gain. What we realize is the more commoditized your product is, in a sense, the product is not very unique. You'll have to put more money in the market to gain market share. But the moment the product becomes unique, the product or service becomes unique, you don't need to put so much of money in the market. So the key takeaway here is ideally identify and build uniqueness inside the product. Now, this hypothesis was again proven when we started looking at, the efficacy of marketing communication when there is an innovation. And the data was telling us very clearly, the bigger the innovation, the bigger the efficiency of the marketing budget. So the key takeaway is to create product and services which the customer demands and resist going to the market when you have a very undifferentiated product. In the conventional way, what you're doing is you're using your advertising might to actually push products to the customers. And when you have a great and a unique product, the market starts pulling the product or the service from you. And that's the kind of difference that we are talking of. Now, when it comes to innovation, now we are saying that innovative products, the market pulls, but when it comes to innovation, let's look at some pieces of data. Uh, Innovation, the myth around innovation is very risky, it's very long term, and there is no guarantee of returns. I mean, you have to invest, sometimes it happens, sometimes it need not happen. Let's look at this piece of data from McKinsey. 84% of the audience, 84% of the executives who were surveyed told that innovation is something which is very, very essential for growth strategy. 84% is a massive, massive number. 80% of this audience also told that business models are at risk. I mean, but out of this 84%, only 6% are satisfied with the innovation performance. I mean, look at the difference in numbers. So that means 94% of the executives are not satisfied with the innovation performance. That's a massive, massive number. Now, why is this? Why is this 94% happening? Because a lot of people don't know exactly what the problem is or what to use innovation for. It is like this image. You don't know what to innovate on and you are just innovating. So I'll call it wasted innovation efforts without a very clear problem and a revenue focus. When you know exactly what to innovate on, what are the revenue nodes, and you focus your innovation on that, it produces results. Now, innovation efforts can be targeted at 3 time frames. That's, I mean, the typical 3-box thinking that we hear in management. The same way, innovation efforts or revenue efforts can be targeted at 3 time horizons. One is something which is immediate. I mean, I'll call it the now, the next, and even into the future. If you were to look at what are the kinds of components that we need to innovate on, something in the immediate, what we should focus on is what is critical and very operational. So you improve that, you will see an immediate gain or a result. That's the kind of spectrum of innovation in this particular space. In terms of the next, which is after you fix your immediate problems, what's the kind of next opportunities that innovation can target? It is the adjacents. I mean, you have an existing business system. What are the other opportunities which can be milked out of it? And the third is something which is very innovational in nature. This could be like futuristic product lines. This could be about avoiding disruption. This can be about innovative business models. So whatever innovation that we are doing, we can put them into these 3 spectrums and see where is it falling, and we can train our focus on these 3 time horizons. Now, when you're talking of innovations, let's look at one of the most innovative company, Amazon. I'm not talking about innovating the way an Amazon does this because they have phenomenal amounts of resources, but I want to focus on one of the most fundamental business philosophies of Amazon itself. I'm just going to read out this quote verbatim to you, which is, we are not competitor obsessed, we are customer obsessed. We start with what the customer needs and work backwards. If you look at it, everything is starting from a customer need. And once the customer need is identified, everything is backtracked to it. I mean, you need to align your business systems, processes, everything to serve that what you call revenue node, which is the customer need. Now, customer need can be something which is very obvious and also something which is unmet also. And that, as I told earlier, is the starting point of revenue. And once you identify that, all this, I mean, it has got implications on your corporate and operational strategy, on your sales and marketing messaging, your product development and research, your business models, your digitization strategy. Everything is trained to tap into that customer need, which is actually the source of revenue for your business. Now, when you're talking of identifying a customer need, I mean, how do you go about that? That's the most critical thing. And I want to talk of an analogy over here. If you put a piece of paper in the sun, I mean, it's not going to burn. But if you put a lens and focus the sunlight, I mean, on the paper, then it starts burning. I mean, so I want to talk about how to create, if you are able to focus your innovation and revenue growth efforts on your customer needs or struggling movement, it starts generating growth. And we have a diagnostics to spot the unmet customer need, the struggling movement, white spaces, and the competition.